Governor Ron DeSantis has thankfully, albeit belatedly, allowed Democrats to now tour his special little Everglades concentration camp. He did not want anyone to go there, which is not necessarily a confidence move for the conditions of a camp like that when you don't want anyone responsible to see it. And it turns out maybe he had good reasons for barring our elected representatives from touring it, because now they've been there and they're coming back and saying what they saw. Here is Representative Maxwell Frost.
I saw 32 people per cage, about 6 cages in the one tent. I saw a lot of people, young men who looked like me and people who were my age. People were yelling, "Help me, help me." I heard in the back someone say, "I'm a US citizen." And looking into these cages, you could see, of course, it was warm and hot within the tent. People were sweating. Some people had taken off the top of their clothing because it was just so hot. Some of them were drenched in sweat. The food we saw is not enough food. They're being fed essentially a small sandwich and a bag of chips.
So that's Maxwell Frost. So we're gonna get to other representatives too. I just want everyone to remember, because at this point in the video, maybe there's still some MAGA people that are like excited about this. And I know that this won't change your opinion, but I just wanna try to shake your assumption, which is, who cares? They're criminals. Again, the vast majority are not. The vast majority have never been accused of literally any crime. And I mean that quite literally. I know you think, well, no, don't say that. We got our wiggle room. They don't have their documents. Well, first of all, apparently some of them might, if they're US citizens. We know plenty of US citizens have been detained and or deported, but not having the proper documentation is literally not a crime. It is not a criminal offense. It is a civil violation. I know it's so important to you to call these people criminals, because you think if we can just do that, if we can succeed in labeling them as criminals, then you could do literally anything you want. They could start dropping dead from heat stroke or whatever, and what are you gonna do? They're criminals. Again, they are not actually criminals, the vast majority. And so let's continue. Debbie Wasserman-Schultz also toured the facility. She said the only thing inside those cages are their bunk beds. She noted that the unused dorm they toured already had bugs crawling over the mattresses that hadn't even yet been used. There are 3 tiny toilet units that have a sink attached to it. That's where you do everything. Your drinking water, brushing your teeth, defecation, urination, everything in this tiny little place in these overstuffed little fenced off areas. And that is what they built in record time at high expense, spending the money and deploying the resources that we're told are never available for like affordable housing or anything like that. But man, if they suddenly get a hankering to watch somebody be eaten by an alligator, they can spring into action so fast. But that said, before we discuss the head of this facility, effectively, the person who helped to make it happen, which was Kristi Noem, she's receiving pushback on this now. Let's see how she handles it.
Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz said that the conditions there are inhumane, more than 30 people stuffed into a jail cell. She said they get their drinking water and they brush their teeth from the same place where they go to the bathroom, Madam Secretary. What do you say to these lawmakers who argue this is not humane treatment of individuals, of humans?
Well, our detention centers at the federal level are held to a higher standard than most local or state centers and even federal prisons. The standards are extremely high. Now, this is a state-run facility at Alligator Alcatraz,
but they have stuffed into a jail cell?
They have a contrast. Well, I've been there and I've seen these rooms that they are in. I wouldn't call them jail cells. I would call them a facility where they are held and that are secure facilities, but are held to the highest levels of what the federal government requires.
Yeah, so just everybody, do not feel deep within your heart or your soul that something evil is being done. Standards, they're standards. Apparently the standards blow because they're covered in feces and bugs and don't have any food and it's way too hot and they're way too like I don't care about your hiding behind. Effectively what she said is, we're just following orders. We're following standards, everybody. Don't worry about it. Yeah, maybe people are dying. Maybe US citizens are being deported. We were just following the standards. And like, no emotion. This is a woman who is deeply religious and she's not breaking a sweat over the cruelty that's being doled out literally as we record this, Share. What do you think?
These are the standards you brought up. These are the standards, the same standards that they were talking about, how they're arresting criminals. But actually, there was other state representatives there as well that pointed out there's people that have traffic violations that are now imprisoned in these concentration camps. And we might as well call them for what they are. We're a little late on the ball of calling the fascists as they're acting like fascists and implementing fascist policies. So let's go ahead and call these concentration camps because that's what they are. They're torture facilities. These folks get off on torturing people that they hate. That's what bigots and Nazis do. It's the same thing over and over and over again. So let's stop acting like we're not seeing what we're seeing. Yo, we've been ignoring it already. That's why we've gotten to this point of this, because enough people are like, well, there's one side of the aisle that's saying it's torture and these are concentration camps. And there's another side that's saying that everything is great. It's a camp. And actually the people wanted to show up there. It's gonna get that bad with this kind of characterization of what things are. And by the way, it's also reasons why we pay attention to our history, because we keep doing this. We had Japanese internment camps. We did that already. How many people actually know about that, as big as it is? We had the Trail of Tears where we destroyed these so many millions of folks' lives, the indigenous folks that lived here before all that went down. And we had this original sin, as some folks called, of this enslaving folks in this country. More torture camps that also included the forced work of many folks as well too, as they dismantled people's families, maimed and killed so many different people because they didn't consider them humans. Every time we decide to not talk about our history and the savage behavior that this country was built on and continues to have policies, literal legal policies based around, we'll ignore our past, and it's happening right now in our present. And for some reason, not enough people that are elected into office won't say, it's about time we stop doing this. We're not doing this anymore. We've gone with the police state. We've gone with the police overrunning our communities constantly because that's how you get law and order in place. Where's the law and order? Where's the law and order? It's not there anymore. It's simply not there. The whole purpose is not for law and order. The purpose is to use people to progress certain rich and elite and connected people's lives. It's the way it's always been, it's the way it continues to be. And it's gonna be that way until we finally decide to stop doing it.
Yeah, I can't go on at the length that I would want to, but they say law and order. Everybody needs to understand for this movement, there's law and order, and then there's something above it, which is the natural law that they care about more than anything else, and it's hierarchy. Like, yeah, regulations, the Constitution, law, it doesn't matter. Brown people are worse than me, and I want to see them suffer. And like when Jayar says that they're enjoying this, why do you think she was so desperate in there to throw Alligator Alcatraz? Because she wants people to think about inmates being eaten by alligators. People aren't going and taking selfies in front of the sign because I'm just glad that there's law and order. They're doing it because they like the idea that someone will be eaten by an alligator. This is evil. Like you have to understand that to counter this movement. If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog that is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?